Good evening, good evening. We're excited to be back from the holidays. My name is Tawana Collins Booth, and welcome to Blue Table Talk. I got my favorite sidekick back, Mr. Arnell Brady, speech language pathologist. So, how did everybody enjoy their holiday? So, we're back from the little break. We had the 4th of July. I hope everybody had a safe holiday, and hope the kids was able to enjoy the fireworks and barbecue and everything. I don't know about the fireworks because of the noise, but I hope that the kids did get a chance to enjoy it. So we're back here, and today we're going to be talking about speech therapy services. So how's it going?
Fine, and it's wonderful to be back at the Blue Table.
The Blue
Table at the Blue Table Talk. And today, as Ms. Booth has just said, we're going to talk about speech-language pathology services. In general, we're also going to be talking about therapeutic services available for people on the autism spectrum. You know, I would just like to remind your viewers of one thing that happened way back in 2006. That has really been overshadowed and not really talked about. The governor of Illinois at that time was Governor Rob Blagojevich. Rob Blagojevich met at his home one day. This was right before he was arrested. And he prayed with a group of ministers, and he signed a bill into law. That bill was called the Brianna Law.
Okay.
You remember that bill?
Mm-hmm.
And what that bill did was, that bill said that it would provide coverage for all individuals under age 21 for the diagnosis and treatment of autism spectrum disorders up to $36,000 per year. And families with children under the age of 21 could access those services from their insurer. Insurers, comprehensive care, healthcare programs must provide $36,000 a year for people on the autism spectrum. How many people know about that bill? Very
Probably
few.
not a lot.
You're not going to get the insurance companies out there advertising that it is available, but it is available. And I still see major insurance companies telling parents, telling their beneficiaries that have children on the spectrum, yes, you have 50 visits per year. You have 40 visits per year. One company even says you have 15 visits per year.
Mm-hmm.
They're not going to tell the parent that, hey, listen, you can go beyond that if your child is on the autism spectrum, because that would open up so many different types of treatments. And this is really what we knew. We cannot count on the schools to be able to provide all that many of the individuals on the autism spectrum need. Therefore, the parents are going to have to go outside of the schools, just as you have done, Mrs. Booth.
Yes, that's true.
You have to go outside of the schools to get supplemental care and interventions for the child. And there are therapies out here that range, and I brought just some of my drums. I don't know, George, can you see these drums on there? But our therapies go from just the simple sounds of the drums. And these drums were made for me by a guy in Arizona. They're made out of bamboo. This set would probably run you $3,000-$4,000 if you tried to buy it. But we have these drums because sometimes in working with individuals with autism, they have to learn how or develop the ability to distinguish between sounds.
Okay.
And I'm not talking about just distinguishing between, say, a name like Mary and John. Is Mary and John, are those the same names? No.
Okay.
I'm talking about very minute sounds. And I forgot to bring the mallet to hit it, but let's see if we can do it with this. No, can't do it with that. Can you hear the difference between those sounds? They are different. Mm-hmm. And the human brain has to be able to do that in order to detect the difference in sound, in order to establish the ability to remember the differences, okay? And so some of our kids, we start out with that. Our interventions go all the way to points to where here. This is a EEG neuro device. And what this device does, we put it on the kids' heads or adult heads, it reads the brain waves in the head of the person while they are doing some activity. We use it for reading comprehension.
Okay.
I had a little boy here just a little while ago, and he is having difficulty with reading comprehension. He can read and decode the words beautifully, but when it comes to the comprehension, he has a very difficult time. That's why they brought him in. So we put this device on his head. He's in the 4th grade. We put this device on his head and give him some 4th grade reading material. We know exactly where in the brain there should be neural activity, which will cause the energy to be read in those brain waves while you're comprehending. When he was reading, he sounded beautifully. When he's reading the 4th grade material, nothing is happening. So we gave him some 2nd grade reading material.
Okay.
And the brain in the comprehension area lit up like a Christmas tree at Christmas being turned on. And the mother said, "Oh my God." And so now we know how to work on his comprehension, and we also know how to detect whether he's comprehending or not. This really speeds up the intervention.
Okay, what's that name again? Say that name again.
The name of this is called the emotive EEG.
Okay.
Neuro headset.
Okay.
They're very inexpensive. They only run like about $800. And it's reading. It has 14 different sites that it is reading in the brain. This is one that is slightly different. This is only reading 5 different sites in the brain while they're doing activities. But I'm just saying this to show the great expanse that exists between our current therapy materials.
Okay.
And we should not think that these things are just for young children on the spectrum.
Okay.
You know, we can talk about 30, 40-year-old people on the spectrum, 50-year-old people on the spectrum, because the human brain is capable of changing at any age as long as it's alive. And so you simply have to have the right environment and the right activity for the change to take place. Another intervention that we have that we've really had a lot of success with is a device called the interactive metronome. The interactive metronome is a device that measures human movement, human activity. And I'm talking about activity that ranges from thinking, to eating, to walking, to running, to hitting a baseball, to hitting a golf ball, to hitting a tennis ball, to swimming, to playing football, to gymnastics. All of those movements can be timed. And we have found that there is a direct relationship between your ability to create rhythms and your reading ability, your speaking ability, your thinking ability. And with this sort of device, we are able to improve your rhythm, to improve your timing, to improve your coordination, to improve your focus, to improve your attention. And again, any age. I have them as young as 5. My oldest right now on this is 67. So,
that service, you have to get that service from a speech.
You know, you can also get this from an occupational therapist.
Okay.
You might get it from a physical therapist. Yes. They sell them to therapists, medical facilities, and it is working wonders. Not only is it working wonders with people who have impairments, handicaps, but it's also for the normal person who simply want to improve their functioning in terms of their movement and coordination. We have baseball players, Seth Curry, that famous basketball player with Golden State. He has used this device to help him in terms of movement, quick movement, because a lot of times when you move, you don't have time to think. Okay. So the muscles have to be trained to move very reflexively. And this is one way that you can improve because you can see how fast you are moving. And it's really interesting. I have a little boy who's 9 years old, and he's on the spectrum. And he has learned how to read, but his reading is slow, slow, slow. All right? We put him on. And in 12 sessions, his reading went from 45 words a minute to 111.
I think you told us
about him.
Yes.
We talked about him before.
Because what's the name of it again?
This is the interactive metronome.
Okay.
The interactive metronome. And we have these devices available. And they're available for all ages. I travel all over the country, and I see autism support groups everywhere.
Okay.
And the autism support groups, a lot of them have different focuses, and there should be different focuses. But here in the Chicago area, in the black community, say on the south and west side, I don't see enough focus on trying to provide these interventions to our students. It's very difficult for some to do it alone. But when people can work together, when groups can, I would like to see a coalition of the different autism support groups that are here on the south side, the Chicago Land Autism Connection, All Families United, A Place for Me. I'd like to see a working coalition between these groups to establish a center, where
we working on it. We gonna get there. We working on it.
Because believe me, there's a lot of money available for legitimate groups. For groups who have, say, their non-profit status.
Okay.
Groups who are doing wonderful things like y'all's groups, All Families United, Chicagoland Autism Connection, A Place for Me. Groups that are really doing something and are involved and willing to put in the energy and the time. You have to focus those energies, focus that time so that you can begin to help establish centers. And it doesn't have to be a large center. You can start with a room somewhere, and get those different interventions available that will really help those individuals develop.
Yeah, that's the whole goal. The goal is for that, to get a place so we can have intervention, like you said, and help people with these services. So that's the whole goal for all of us. So because these services is really needed, they really help in the progress of your child, and like you said, adults, and not even people with disabilities.
Right.
These programs is helping everyone. So we would love to have a big fundraiser, and so that's the whole goal, to start helping other kids so we can have a fundraiser, and that way we can start paying for and sponsoring child to have these services who can't afford these services. Because if a child progressing and doing their best with these services, they going to the top, because these some excellent programs here.
Well, this is definitely what I have seen. And two of the most important ingredients is consistency or frequency and intensity. And we as parents, if we would simply make the sacrifices to put in that time and effort, because we're going to be gone soon and our children are going to be left here. Our young adults are going to be left here. We want to try to prepare them as best as possible for surviving in the future. And it is not too late. You know, and, people think that just because you turn 21 or 25 or 35 or 45, it's not too late.
Yeah,
there is
never too
still
late for nothing.
room. Yeah, it's never too, it is still room for improvement. There is still room for development. And I'll tell you, when you can participate in watching an individual develop and improve, it brings joy to your life, to your own life. We had a little boy just this past school year in the 3rd grade on the autism spectrum. We had got him out of that developmental delay classroom to where they just had a bunch of children in the room with all types of disabilities. He didn't belong there, but the school did not recognize that. But we had one of those hell no mamas who said that, oh no, my child is capable of much more. I want him to have access to more services. And of course, she didn't wait on the school services. The school said they was going to provide language services in that developmental delayed classroom, so she didn't have to worry about speech and language pathology services in the schools because he was going to be getting it there. I don't know a speech language pathologist in this country that can adequately provide speech language pathology services to a classroom with all those different types of disabilities in that short amount of time that they're given to work with. So, of course, she afforded outside speech and language services. That child, just this past school year, was voted the most outstanding and the most accomplished child in the entire school. And he's just in the 3rd grade.
Wow.
And it was just fantastic. We had another kid. I went to an IEP meeting where they had the IEP meeting was saying he's on the autism spectrum. They were saying on the south side, they were saying that they did not feel as though the school was capable of providing all of the services that he needed, and they wanted to maybe begin considering maybe a therapeutic day school or a different kind of setting for him. The parent and the grandmother, I must say, did not wait for the school to provide the services that he needed. They went outside and got the services that he needed and were very consistent in bringing him to therapy. Well, they just had that, what is it, the NEA, that national test that they give. Reading, he scored at the 98th percentile, and math was at the 94th percentile. Yeah, that might not be the right school for him. He might need a gifted school. But it just goes to show that if the parents are willing to work, you know, sure, we have a lot of things, but, well, me as a parent and now as a grandparent, there's nothing more important to me in my life than my children and my grandchildren. There's no job, there's no, we got to have a roof over our head and food and clothes. Yeah, but no, none of that comes before my child, and now my grandchildren, I'm very happy to say. But interventions are available. The neuroscientists have learned so much about the human brain and what it's capable of doing that, to me, it's really neglect on the part of parents if they do not demand the best for their child in this day and age.
You have to. You have to,
Yeah.
especially if you got a child with a disability. But that Brianna law again.
Yes.
Because I want them to look that up.
Look
of people
probably
don't know about it.
Yes.
So
Governor Rod Blagojevich signed that bill. It's called Senate Bill 934 into law. It's now called the Brianna Law, and it was named for Brianna D. Ciani, who was a child diagnosed with autism in 2006. But she was denied coverage by the family's health insurance company. And that parent, because they could afford it, they fought it.
okay.
And their fight, which we must applaud and thank them for, because what that did, it opened up the way for so many children now in the state of Illinois who have been diagnosed with autism, and many other states have copied that law.
Okay.
You know, and it was not too long after that law was passed that United Healthcare said that if you have autism and you're under 21, you have unlimited intervention services.
Yeah, no, I don't think they know about that.
So,
I remember when you gave me the paper years ago. I remember you gave me the paper and I reading up on it. So yeah, but a lot of people, you know, they don't know about this law.
And that's 13. That's 11 years now, and people still don't know about it. They still don't know about it, and a lot of it probably got buried in the fact that Blagojevich had all of that trial and went to jail, and just so many other things were going on. President Obama was being
spreading
elected.
the word about good news or for good services for our kids. You know, that should just when like you telling everybody. You know, your regular doctor should tell you that when they first diagnose you and say, hey, when they give you the paper, say, I want to tell you about this group. Contact this group if you need any help.
You would think.
Okay, they need to get that paper too. Check into the Brianna Law so you can get you some extra services.
But you know, I think again that speaks to the point. We cannot wait for other people to do it for us.
No, you definitely can't wait.
We must go ahead and do it ourselves. And, you know, it was around that time, too. You're a federal employee. It was around that time that the federal government said all federal employees that have a child on the autism spectrum, that they would provide not only rehabilitative services, but they would also provide habilitative services for that child. The rehabilitative services is for like when you have an accident, a disease, or something happens, and you lose an ability. Say you lose the ability to speak or the ability to use language adequately. They said they would also provide habilitative services. That means they would provide for you to be able to learn how to talk or to learn how to use language and not just to rehab it. So we have seen some programs in the private, like United Healthcare, and in the public sector, like the Federal Employment Act, that said that they are going to step up their game. Because we know that if you pay in the beginning, it's going to cost a lot less in the end.
Okay.
We know that early intervention services have helped avoid and reduce the cost of servicing some of our handicaps in the future. And we know that children on the autism spectrum, many of them have capabilities that can easily be developed, and they can become happy, productive, useful citizens, tax-paying members of our society. And to deny them access to these services, I think, is neglect. You can call it medical, educational neglect. But we have to spread the word. Groups like All Families United and Chicagoland Autism Connection, they have to be a resource, a place for me. They have to be a resource where people can get information about these interventions and help each other, and do not wait on the schools to do it.
Yeah, we out here spreading awareness. That's why we here today, to let everybody know. And once again, I want you to tell them about the headset again, and what's the name of the headset.
Yeah,
so
this is called the Emotive EEG Neuro Headset. It's for monitoring brainwave activities. Another product that we have is called the Interactive Metronome, and this is extremely important for developing an area in the brain called the supplemental motor area, where all motor planning and sequencing takes place. And we have found by directly exercising that area, we can significantly improve the functioning. And that means in language and speech and voicing and walking and many other activities in life. And of course, we always have the drums.
And that's a different kind of drums.
Them
the drums over there, because you got the other drums.
There was a guy from Arizona who makes these sit drums, and he makes them for people, musicians all over the world. And every year, for many years now, he has come to the 57th Street Art Fair.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
And one year I got to talking because I heard the sounds of those drums, and the sounds are just so beautiful. Those pure, they're not quite pure tones, but the tones are so soothing and attractive that I said, wow, those are some fabulous drums. He asked what kind of work that I do, and I told him I was a speech language pathologist here in the Hyde Park area. You know, the guy asked to visit me. He said, I'd like to come see, because I told him I use djembes.
Okay.
And so he came. And he came on a day that one of my students, an autistic little girl, was here. And he brought a couple of drums. And me and the little girl started playing the drums.
Okay.
He was so impressed with her performance. This is how I got these three drums.
And he gave them to you?
And these three drums were shipped to me.
Oh, okay.
From his shop in Arizona. And matter of fact, on his web page, they filmed me and the little girl and him all playing the drums, and that was on his website for a while. But and these drums are made out of bamboo.
Okay.
They're some very beautiful drums.
Yeah, because that's the first time.
Yeah, those are very special drums, handmade. And I do have some made with the African ebony wood that he has given me. And he can make them as large as this table. But yeah, those are some beautiful drums. But we still use drums because, remember, that one of the four elements of the human brain is a pattern detector. And I have been able to use the drum, especially with some of our nonverbal children on the spectrum, to be able to establish their ability to reproduce rhythms and to start to talk by using the tapping and the rhythm of the drum.
Oh, that's excellent right there. So like I said, like I always end it with, if you want the best speech language pathology services in Chicago, you need to come on down here to Brady Speech, 5228 South Blackstone, or give him a call, 773-493-5499. for 1,000. Oh, and I wanted to talk about a couple of events that was coming up next weekend. You know, if you got some time, I want you to go to the Chicago Land Autism Connection page. They got the annual water park album coming out Saturday, July 20th. So go to their page and check it out, because that's a good event for the summer next weekend. And also go to the Answer Inc. page, because we got the Moms of the Midwest Hats Off to the Autism Brunch coming up, and that's next Sunday. So next weekend, if you don't have nothing to do, you need to go to the Chicago Autism Connection page, and you need to go to the Answer Inc. page and look up these awesome events so you can get the kids out and get you out and have a good weekend. So I want to thank you all for tuning in for another edition of the Blue Table Talk. And if you want to reach me, contact me at All's Family United. The number is 1-708-320-9018. Thank you again for watching. Have a blessed evening. Good night. See you all next week.
Hi.